Now, of course, what people are always wanting to know is how are colleges going to look at summer engagement and how are colleges reviewing that? So, Claudia, will you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. First of all, there are many pieces to the admissions review process, and many places practice something called holistic review, which includes all of our activities and the things that students are doing over the summer. But this particular graphic is really diving in deeper. At the center of all this and all activity is academics and the rigor within that academics. You cannot engage in the rest of these pieces unless the academics are in place. So that's first and foremost in any review process. But I do think that as students are diving in deeper, it's to think about how you're wanting to engage with these different activities. Are you intellectually curious and that's pushing you to engage with maybe research or different types of summer classes? Are you thinking about a piece that we like to call fit to major? Some schools, colleges, and universities will want you to demonstrate that you have some knowledge level of what you're applying into. I think the most guilty people are your engineers and business programs that want to see how do you know more about these areas, as well as the common good. They definitely want to see how you are contributing back to your community, because part of the college's philosophy, as well as their mission and vision statements, often include a contribution back to their communities. So they really want to make sure they're developing whole human beings and not just people who are going just straight into the working world, so those are things that we encourage. When it comes to evaluating that engagement, I think it's really important to one step back a little and think about this community piece that colleges are trying to cultivate, in the sense that they do want a lot of different types of students. So it's okay if a student doesn't want to do X over Y, or if Y is more important than Z. That's okay for students to have varying interests. But I think you need to think about what is their engagement with this piece of the puzzle. Are they interested in it? How are they pushing themselves in terms of intellectual growth? If they're problem solving for the common good, why are they engaged with this specific issue? Why is it important to them? So helping them think through these different areas will help them ultimately in the final processes of evaluation, because colleges care about these things because they need, again, different members in their community, because you learn just as much from your peers as you do from faculty. So we need to develop good human beings. So you need lots of different types of human beings in your community. Okay, so this is the piece where I get probably the most questions, especially with my past experiences on college campuses. And so what I think is important when we think about engagement and we start thinking about highly selective institutions, doing something is great, but if you're really looking at your top tier schools, everyone is doing something. So you're starting to think about how you're going to sort of set yourself apart. And the way you do that is to take your engagement level deeper. Go deeper into your research, go deeper into the impact you're hoping to have in your communities. And the way that translates out into the application is we see students who are performing at high levels, at regional, state, and national levels, at times international levels. If there's a special issue that a student really loves and they're really passionate about, how are they tackling that issue? Are they addressing it in a way that other students and their communities can help with? Are they bringing other people into that process of building and problem solving? And if they are, how is that going to carry on when they are already in college? STEM students in particular. Okay, it's not just about I learned how to code over the summer, although that is important if you're like thinking about computer science, or if you're thinking maybe you want to venture into the world of engineering, but it's how are you building upon those skills to do these other pieces? Are you taking those skills that you're learning to problem solve for an issue? Are you taking these skills you're learning to build something for another competition? So we want to make sure that you are continuing your learning to a very high level. So it's not just about, oh, I'm now in AP Calc and I've done it. It's sort of like, what are you doing with it? It's not that you just learned Python, but what are you doing with the Python piece? And the independent research, as it becomes more popular, the questions that students are asking become more important. So if they have that intellectual engagement, they're thinking about those higher level questions. And many times colleges and universities will actually ask to see sort of a synopsis or an abstract of the work that they've done.
One other comment on this is it's not only highly selective colleges anymore, it's also highly selective majors at schools. Computer science at some schools can be the most competitive of the competitive.
So as we think about what engagement looks like to colleges, we thought we'd share kind of the format for the communication, how students get to share their engagement with colleges. This happens in three major ways in the application process. One is an academic resume. An academic resume, obviously similar to a professional resume, but has more growth opportunities, more skills they are developing, not just results. So there's more process in an academic resume. In addition, every school will utilize some form of a digital application platform. In that application platform, there will be a section about activities and engagement. That is the other place where students get to share, often in very limited character and word count, what they've been up to and how it impacts them, initiative they've taken. In addition, obviously, they can talk about not just their engagement, but reflections on what they've learned, how they've grown in their college essays. So those experiences are also valuable. That's also a valuable way to communicate them. But the other thing to note is that while every school will utilize an activity section of a digital application platform, not every school accepts a resume. And so this activity section is really important for students to kind of utilize and maximize in these applications.
Okay, we've been so grateful for everyone to carve out time this afternoon. This is a first of a series over this spring that College Matchpoint is hosting. At the beginning of February, we'll be hosting a webinar diving deeper into college admissions at highly selective colleges. We know that for many parents of juniors, that college tours is top of mind and so confusing with this pandemic. So at the end of February, we'll be hosting a webinar on making the most of college tours. And for some students and families, that may be virtual college tours. Colleges have responded to the pandemic by really expanding the number of opportunities they provide for students to engage with their school virtually. We also encourage you, if you haven't already, to look at our guides. In the follow-up note tomorrow, we'll include the guide to summer planning, which includes the scorecard that Lisa mentioned, a guide to high school engagement. We'll also include some of the materials that Jed and Mary Dell mentioned. We really want to make sure we're committed to make sure that this isn't stressful or confusing for anyone. We know that we're at the end point, but we also know that there are questions that folks have. We're going to go 5 minutes over, and if you have questions that we haven't been able to answer, please share them in the Q&A box, and we're happy to cover them. If not, thank you so much, and we hope you have a great rest of the day and a great week ahead of you.